And a very good morning to you, and welcome to TVB's live coverage of the Hong Kong Marathon. We have around 75,000 participants this year, including all sorts of different categories: the marathon, the half marathon, the 10K run, and the wheelchair race as well, which of course is doing a very different course to the 42K track that some of the world's top runners here will be taking part in. They will head out across Kowloon onto the airport bridges and back again, finishing up on Hong Kong Island in Victoria Park. So starting down in Tsim Sha Tsui, and you'll see that route with the orange line heading back toward Victoria Park through Central. A grueling race which from a distance looks flat, but there are a lot of really difficult inclines here in the Hong Kong Marathon, particularly coming out of the Western Tunnel, heading back up toward the finish line. So I'm joined for today's coverage by Glenn Zhou. Glenn's been covering the marathon with me for a few years now. Glenn, a pretty brutal time to start a race, but they have to try and beat, I was going to say beat the heat. Of course, it is winter here in Hong Kong, but when you're running and the sun is out, the temperature does get up, particularly on a bitumen track.
Yeah, morning Andrew. Another great day. Weather-wise, I think it may be a little bit warm for a marathon event, but it should be nice and dry at least. No rain today, very little wind, so good conditions there, but the temperature might be a little bit warm. But as you said, 74,000 competitors, of course. We have quite a few elite gold status runners as well. Last year's champion for the men's, Kip Kimbo, look out for him. He finished last year, he was the winner in 2 hours and 11 minutes. And then, of course, in the women, they also had a very, very fast time as well. So early start for some of the dignitaries, but for sure a huge event for Hong Kong, one of the landmark events for sporting events in Hong Kong, and great to see that kicking off again this year as well.
So quite a lot of VIPs there, including, of course, John Lee, the Hong Kong Chief Executive, who traditionally hits the starting hooter for the start of this race. Again, just under 42 kilometres in length. Timothy Fock there as well. Man in the middle with the now greying hair, long common face of Hong Kong sport with the Hong Kong Olympic Committee. Prize money for this race, $65,000 US for each of the men's and women's winners. That's for first place, and $30,000 US for second, $15,000 US for third place. So the route, as I mentioned, the furthest point is the far end of the Tin Kau Bridge. So if you're familiar with Hong Kong, you head out to West Kowloon. It's a left turn to get onto the airport bridge, which is the officially Tsing Ma Bridge. They don't go over that bridge as we count down to the start. And off we head. Now we have all our race favourites at the front. It's going to take a very long time for all the runners to even cross the starting line. Remember, there's nearly 75,000 runners in total, and the ones at the back will still just be standing there waiting for the pack to start moving across the line.
Yeah, of course, the challenges with all the elite runners, all the best Hong Kong runners, starting at 6 a.m. We've got two other waves of marathon runners, 6:25, 6:50. They're all kicking off at different times, obviously, to spread them out. And of course, half marathon, one starting at 5:30, the challenge starting at 5:30, and then 7:45, 8:10, 8:40. and then of course the 10K, also different waves throughout the day. So good to see lots of local as well as international athletes. Of the 74,000, around about 25% have come internationally.
So now heading up Nathan Road for the early stages of this race. As Glenn mentioned before, the winning times we've seen over the years here range between, say, 2:10 and 2:20. The world record, though, because this is a very difficult course to set a fast time on because it is so relatively hilly, unlike places like Rotterdam in the Netherlands, where you can usually clock up a fast time, or Chicago as well. In fact, the men's marathon world record, they do now call it the world record. There was a time when it was only known as the world best because the courses do vary. That got confusing. That's a great shot there. It was changed to the world record, and that world record was set by Kenya's Kelvin Kiptum at the 2023 Chicago Marathon, and that world best time, or world record time for men, is 2 hours flat. So 2 hours, 0.35 seconds. So yet to break that 2 hour mark.
Yeah, I think it's 2 hours is one that they've been looking for quite a long time, but I'm sure in the next few years it's going to happen as these athletes become more well-trained, and then obviously having ideal conditions, as you say, Andrew, flat, good temperature, no wind, no rain. That would obviously be ideal.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the women's world record there as well, just so you have some sort of marker of what these times mean in relation to the world's best time. The women's record was set by Tixt As-Safer, and that was in 2025, so just last year. And that time, the women's world record is 2 hours, 15 minutes and 50 seconds. So it won't take very long to sort the serious contenders out from the amateurs and some of the less top level runners who do take part in the world circuit. So as you can understand, this is one of the major thoroughfares through Hong Kong, Nathan Road on Kowloon side, running north to south. It's always very strange seeing that well-known boulevard closed off to traffic, as so many other roads in this area are this morning. Just picking up my guest here, Glenn Joe, from home this morning, was a major battle with blocked roads trying to get in and out of there.
Yes, all right, Andrew. Any kind of major sporting event, I guess, is a big task for any city, and then obviously Hong Kong being one of those. But a great way to showcase the city and see different parts of it. As we said, there were 25% of the 74,000 runners are international, so there's obviously a lot of economic benefits and a lot of promotion that can be done for Hong Kong.
So you've got to remember as well, these runners mark out the calendar very carefully during the year. Despite running 42 Ks in a race, the training and races on a runner's calendar are spread out throughout the year. They're not doing this every couple of days. They're not even training like this every couple of days. So even professional marathoners have their limit. So another reference point watching these runners is the most recent Olympics, the 2024 Paris Olympics. The men's champion there was Tamarat Tola of Ethiopia. That time was 2 hours, 6 minutes and 26 seconds. That was for the men's race in Paris. And the women, it was Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands, although I should point out Sifan Hassan, Ethiopian born and bred, changing to a Dutch top for the Olympics. That winning time, an Olympic record in fact, was 2 hours, 22 minutes and 55 seconds. So an Olympic record there for the women's race. Also an Olympic record for the men's race in Paris last year. Again, should be pointed out, a pretty flat course there for those Paris Olympics. So 7.5 minutes down, and a long way to go, more than 2 hours for these runners, and they're really going to start to feel it when they have to do a lot of elevation to get up onto the airport expressway. We'll just, to keep things simple, call it the airport expressway from here. If you speak to anyone who's run this race, that is one of the grueling moments of the race early on, getting up onto that elevated platform. Also coming out of the West Kowloon Tunnel into the Sheung Wan area of Hong Kong. That is also another backbreaker. They say when you're in the bottom of the tunnel and you've got to run out, it looks like you're climbing a mountain. And that really does sort out, it spreads the field out very thin coming out of there, just in that last half hour of running in this marathon. First modern marathon was run at the 1896 Olympics in Athens, and that was a local runner who was a professional water carrier, Louis Spiridos, who won that very first Olympic marathon. The race distance of, yes, that was April 10, 1896 to be exact. And the reason I'm telling you that is because that winning time was 2 hours, 58 minutes and 50 seconds. And the route was between the town of Marathon and the Panathenaic Stadium in Athens. So 2 hours, 58 minutes. So absolutely incredible how that time has come down over the years. As Glenn reminded me this morning, coming in here to the commentary booth, the women didn't get to start the marathon until 1984. That was the Los Angeles Olympics. So already, very early on, there is your pack. And give it another 10 kilometers or so, and that pack will be halved as well.
Yeah, of course, for last year we had 1, 2, 3 was Kenya, as we would expect. Last year's winner, Kipkembo from Kenya. He's back this year. Our second place, unfortunately, did not come. Kipyiko from Kenya, he finished 2 hours and 11 minutes. So all these elite athletes certainly have that capability. The best this year is from Ethiopia, Gebre. He has a personal best of 2 minutes and 4 seconds, so let's see how they do this year. And of course, our local Wang Wanchun, he has a PB of 2:15, so hopefully he can get up there, certainly amongst the top in the pack. And of course, last year's winner for the women's, unfortunately we don't see here on the start list, Mazuranok from Belarus. She finished in 2:27. But certainly we have still a very, very good field for the women. A PB this year, Shatai from Bahrain, finished in 2 hours and 20 minutes. So last year's winner, as we said, Mazuranok finished in 2:27. So we'll see the woman maybe finishing around that 2:20 mark today. With the men finishing maybe around 2:10, 2:15, maybe around that mark there.
So one of the runners to watch out for on the white top there, just on the left middle, I should say, Francis Langat, 26 years old. He's got a PB of 2 hours, 7 minutes and 29 seconds. So the Kenyan, one of the group of official elite runners taking part in this race. Now, this is, again, it doesn't do us justice, but this is the first big incline on their way up to the Airport Expressway. And again, it's grueling. It's not like Rotterdam or Chicago. This is a very hilly marathon course.
See the marker in the back there, just 4 kilometres. So just a turning point here now in West Kowloon as I head up around Stonecutters Island, obviously on the West Kowloon Highway, and then towards the Chenkau Bridge as I make their 20k mark and start heading back towards Victoria Park through the Western Tunnel.
So many of these runners very familiar with the course. They know exactly at what point on the course they need to be at a certain time to be in that top 3 or possibly win that race, although that's usually easier said than done. But it does work sometimes if you can hit those markers. Just going back a long, long way, Robert De Castella in 1982 at the Brisbane Commonwealth Games, beating a field of Kenyan runners by having his markers. He had a watch with him. He knew where he had to be by certain times. He'd run the course before, and during the race, he hit all those markers. And once he hit the last marker, he knew that he was on for a record and on for the gold, purely by calculation. And he did go on to win. And that was a major, major upset, beating the East Africans. Again, easier said than done.
Yeah, certainly all these guys have a particular race strategy they want to stick to, and as Andrew say, different times, different markers. But as it Mike Tyson famously said, that everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
And then you ain't got no plan. Yeah, it's so true, and it rings true in pretty much every sport.
Yeah, certainly best laid plans, obviously, the race, but even prior to the race, what they have been doing with their training, leading up to it. Did they have a good sleep? Did they get there on time? You know, all those things play into how well they prepare and how well they perform in the race.
You saw so many of those top runners stopping to grab some fluid, even stopping and having to run back to get fluid, and that can, just missing one water break table can be the difference between finishing in the top 3 and not finishing at all. And virtually every year, toward the end, in the last hour or so, there's a big shock. You'll see someone running in the top 3, and then we change camera angles, they disappear, and then you see them limping along behind. So we almost always get blowouts amongst the top runners. So again, there is a completely separate wheelchair race for the Hong Kong Marathon, but it's held entirely on Hong Kong Island. So there is no having to go through the tunnel. That would be a pretty difficult task for the wheelchair competitors. So there's a lot of sponsored kit out there, particularly the shoes, and they do go through a lot of pairs of them throughout the season, which makes it all the more unbelievable that the 1960 marathon, and I'm pretty sure the only marathon where not only a competitor but a winner ran the whole race in bare feet. That was the Rome Olympics in 1960. And that was Abibi Bikila, and he would have run the Rome Marathon in 1964 also in bare feet, but he was persuaded to wear shoes, and he went on to win that race anyway. Glenn, what's incredible watching these runners, even from a certain angle, if we can get it, to give you some perspective of how fast they're running. It is incredible how they can basically sprint. It's a 42-kilometer race, and to see someone sprinting to the line in that 40, on the 40, 41, 42-kilometer mark, they don't quite hit the 42K mark, but the stamina they have to pick up speed where they need it after, 35, 40-odd kilometers.
Yeah, we do take it for granted when we watch them here, and obviously they're all going at a similar pace. But if you imagine you and I running on a treadmill, we'd probably maybe 7, 8 kilometers an hour is a bit of a jog. 9, 10 kilometers an hour, it gets a little bit quicker. But these guys are averaging 19 to 20 kilometers an hour for a full 2 hours. So if you can imagine us running 19 to 20 kilometers an hour, we could probably do it for a little while, maybe less than a minute. But these guys keeping that pace for 2 hours is pretty phenomenal.
Well, Glenn, you're involved in sports science as a profession. What sort of a difference does it make training at high altitude in some of these places in East Africa? Why is that such a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. It's being at altitude, there's less oxygen in the air for sure, and then your body adapts. Your body adapts to allowing it to create more oxygen. So all these Kenyans, Ethiopians, they're living in that high altitude environment. So you see all the other runners from around the world, they'll go and live there and train there. So having that advantage, of course, in America, all of the long distance athletes around Colorado, they'll stay around there, obviously at high altitude as well. So it is certainly an advantage to be living and born and bred in some of those places. And then obviously it's a way of life for them too, running and walking and just doing long distances all the time. It's part of their culture and their makeup, and then certainly that's why you see a lot of Kenyans, Ethiopians, in the podiums for any of these long distance events.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally you'll see a truly great runner from Tanzania, but again, same part of the world, and also with the facilities or the opportunity to train at high altitude. So this is a key water break. We did see a few tables further back at the last water station that were basically empty. And that's a challenge for organisers, making sure that these water tables are completely full, particularly when the important leading pack comes through. So there are still one or two Asian runners in that pack there, one from China, but they are mainly African runners at the moment. So you can see, even though they're already up on the elevated expressway, but that you can see there how steep this climb is here. So just getting up here is one thing. Taking on the various undulations in the expressway is another. So early on, it's just up and up and up.
You quickly just mentioned some of the Asian runners. Of course, we have a few from North Korea in the men's and also in the women's, and then Yuki Kauchi, who's got a personal best of 2:07 from Japan. He famously won the Boston Marathon one year. But you would think on the top, of course, Ethiopia, Kenya, typically usually in the top 1, 2, 3, as we saw last year for the men's 1, 2, and 3. For the women's, it was Belarus, and then Ethiopia and Ethiopia. So certainly, as we mentioned before, some of those East African countries doing obviously very, very well in the marathon races.
Just at the moment, we've got Kip Curry out in the front, but just keep your eyes on the athlete in the white singlet to the right. That's Solomon Timosuta of Kenya. He's 35 years old, so he's kind of on the latter end of his career, but he's got a PB of 2:08.10. That was actually set in China, the Wuxi Marathon in 2024. But he is, of anyone here, he is definitely capable of pulling a surprise, and he's just been tucked in there behind the race leader since the start. He hasn't been dropping to the back of the pack, so that is definitely one to watch. He, along with his teammate Langat, Francis Langat, also from Kenya. So remember, there's a prize pool here of $65,000 for the winner.
Yeah, total prize pool of $314,800 of course, and not only the men's and women's winner 65,000, heading down 30,000, 15,000, 10,000 for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Obviously, there's, if you can beat the track record, then another 12,000 for each of the men's and women's.
Speaking of the women's, Glenn, just wanted to point out the women's leading pack there. That's Eset Shitei of Bahrain, 36 years old there, the number 61 jersey, just behind that men's runner. So we have Bahrain out in front leading the women's pack. She's got a PB of 2 hours, 20 minutes and 32 seconds set in Hamburg just last year. Now back with the leading men and approaching the half-hour mark.
Yeah, you mentioned Chitay there. She's from Bahrain. She's, as you said, 220. She's one of the best in the female field. She didn't do too well last year, but look for her to perhaps go under the 227 mark, and if she does, it's another $8,000 bonus.
We had, interesting, one of the elite runners is for them in the men's field is Samir Sharif of Ethiopia. We saw him just leading the women's pack before, and that's because he is officially listed as a pacer. So he's not running this race to try and win it. Well, I'm sure he'd like to, but he is literally there to pace the women and keep the Ethiopian women running on time and get them into a winning position. So he is way back, just keeping those women moving as fast as they can at this early stage. So there's, again, keep an eye on Suter on the outside, who I mentioned before, and he is actually now in the lead. Just, again, early stages, although we now have someone else moving in, and we have another runner on the outside who looks like he is not, because he's on the far right-hand side, and he hasn't stopped for any fluids at the water station. The top runners will have their own bottles along the track, or they'll just grab a random cup.
You see a good shot there of Kipkuri in the front. Just behind him, our, I guess, this year's best 204, Gebri from Ethiopia in the red shorts. He is the fastest this year, 204. His PB was in 2020. So unless he is capable of the fastest time, you see him and just behind Kipkuri in the white singlet and the red shorts. One of our gold level athletes. Of course, there's many gold level. His 204 was completed in Zurich, in Sevilla, in 2020. But as Andrew said, still early stages, as they're still figuring out their race strategies, of course, in the first 30 minutes. So around about a quarter of the way there.
Interesting, Glenn, we've got that one runner over to the right. But but we do see him sweep back in over to his right to pick up some fluids. So he's up there with the leading pack, but strangely running on his own. So out to the far right there as well is Malaku Bizune of Ethiopia. Again, one of the veterans here, 36 years old. And he is not elite status for this race. He's gold status, a PB of 2:06.30, set in Berlin in 2024. So here we are on the Stonecutters Bridge, it looks like. Yes. Yep, Stonecutters Bridge, one of the alternate routes to the airport. And they'll come over this bridge, which, as you know, if you live in Hong Kong, is a hugely elevated bridge, which then comes down into a tunnel to get you through that mountain and out toward the airport bridges. The Stonecutters Bridge, quite a complicated engineering, old piece of engineering. It's held up by huge steel cables run through gigantic tubes the size of a bus, and that internal cavity holding all those steel cables, holding these runners up, has to be air conditioned 24 hours a day, which is not a very, not a particularly sustainable way to build a bridge, but there it is, spectacular looking nonetheless. As you can just see the light, that's a beautiful shot. We have had absolutely stunning weather here in Hong Kong the past few days, and it looks like it's going to be another cracker, a beautiful light blue, almost purple colour in the background as the sun just starts to creep up with a few rays over the horizon. Just past 6:30 a.m. here in Hong Kong as these runners head out toward the airport. Again, not exactly toward the airport. You could say toward Yuen Long, because they don't turn left onto the airport bridge. They head due north on the Tin Cow Bridge, and they'll do a little loop, a U-turn at the end of that bridge before going through the tunnels to Yuen Long, and then they'll head back toward the finish line in Victoria Park. Had various different finishing points for the Hong Kong Marathon over the years. The first one I was involved in back in the 1990s ended up at a sports stadium in Shung Shui. It actually ended up in far north of Kowloon, up near the border with China.
Yeah, it certainly has come a long way since the inaugural in 1997. Just over 1,000 competitors going from Seongsu up to Shenzhen, but obviously over the years growing in leaps and bounds, of course. If we look at the history, 6,000 year after, creeping up to almost 40,000 by the time it was 2006, another 50,000 2 years later, 60,000 another 2 years later, and then obviously getting up to this 74,000 mark now. So a huge event for Hong Kong, but a great way to promote the city, of course.
So you just you may have seen a ribbon blowing across into the path of the runners there. Just this morning at around 5:30, just driving around Hong Kong, it started to get very blowy, actually, which is not great for these runners. Depending on which way that wind is blowing, it does literally slow the field down. But let's see, a lot of it is protected. There's some tunnels, but when you're up on a bridge, you really are exposed to the breeze. Bit of history for you. We all know the marathon is named after the Battle of Marathon. 490 BC that was, but there is a misconception. There's a common story that the distance of the marathon is the distance that a runner that was sent from the battle was sent to Athens to tell the Athenians that they had beaten the Persians in the Battle of Marathon, but that wasn't the case. He had actually run 220 kilometers south to ask the Spartans for help. What it was the victorious Athenian army marching, doing a quick march back to Athens in case the Persians came round via the sea to attack Athens, which in the end they didn't. But that was around about a 40-kilometer quick march for the Athenian army. So that's where the distance comes from. But the exact distance is because at the first London Olympics in the early 1900s, some yardage was added. I think 365 yards was added so that the race could finish directly in front of the royal box. So that's where we get the modern Olympic distance. I believe it's 26 miles, 365 yards. I'll have to double check that, but that's the basics of it.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sure all of these athletes would prefer to do 42 instead of the 220 that you mentioned.
Yeah. There's been talk occasionally of trying to get the Hong Kong Marathon run on a more scenic course, mainly on Hong Kong Island, with some of the spectacular city landscapes in Central and Wan Chai included in the race. But it's always been decided that it's just logistically too difficult to close off those sorts of areas. It's much easier to close off the airport bridge for a few hours. And I can't see any time in the future where this course is going to change from what it is now. So you can see Solomon Suter there now out in front. Again, the man I mentioned before who was tucked in behind the leader, just biding his time. He's now out in front. Kupkuri has dropped behind him. So there's the man the cameras are going to follow now in the white vest. Solomon Timo Suter of Kenya, 35 years old. If you look at most of these elite runners, it should be pointed out, they're all aged over 30. Some are as old as 36. We have a 38-year-old. That's Silas Kiprono II, who you'll see in the leading pack. He's been out on the left most of the time. Just look for that. He's got the TOO written in big bold writing on his vest. And now they're coming down into the tunnel that will take them out and onto the Tin Cow Bridge. So these tunnels are difficult by their nature. They are dug down and then there is an uphill to get out. There's two just over to the right there. You can see them. So many Kenyans in this pack. Well, that shot on the right makes it look like it's brighter than it actually is. That's because of all the lighting on the bridge. The sun is coming up, but it's still mainly dark at this time. Glad it's interesting. If you watch the Olympics over the last, let's say, I don't know, 35 years odd, let's go back to Barcelona or even Seoul in 1988. I mean, athletes are only human, and you would see some awful physical breakdowns on a marathon course amongst both the men's and women's fields. But this sport has reached such a professional elite level. You see that less and less now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you think about running at this kind of pace for more than 2 hours, it is certainly taxing on the body, and it does need certainly a huge amount of preparation. That's not just months, but years. You know, we're talking about the average age for marathon runners. You look down the list, everyone's kind of early 30s, some even late 30s. You know, physically, you're probably at your peak late 20s, but certainly marathon runners take a little bit of time to develop that you know, physical stamina, but also that mental endurance as well. You know, it's a lot of people talk about the marathon and how it's more a mental challenge as opposed to a physical challenge. But certainly really taxing on the body. We see a lot of these athletes have a plan, have a strategy, but sometimes the strategy just doesn't work, and especially in hot conditions, you often see some of these world-class top athletes really struggle. But again, in this field, hopefully we see just over 2 hours. If they can get it below 2:07, there's another cash bonus there. Course record, of course, 2:09, another cash bonus there. So if they can get it under 2:10, they'll be doing a really good job. For the men's, 2:11 last year was the best time. So if anyone can do 2:10 this year, they'll be doing a very good job. And obviously, of all of our elite and gold athletes, all of them are capable of doing that under 2:10 for all of these invited elite athletes. For example, Suter, he can certainly do a fast time PB of 2:08, and they've done that recently as well in 2024.
Interesting to see here, Glenn. I mean, you've known a lot of runners locally who've taken part in this race over the years. A lot of them will just, you know, at a stretch they'll do the half marathon, but some take part in the full field. But local runners here, we have 73% local runners. That's not such a big deal, but actually what is notable is that the non-local runners make up nearly 27% of this race. That's a lot of runners. So let's work that out. 27%, it's like you've got at least 20,000 runners who've come from overseas to take part in this race. I mean, admittedly, some of them are almost local. They're from Asia. They come from Singapore, maybe they've come up from Australia, Malaysia, that sort of thing. But non-local runners, 27%. That's a massive chunk for people taking part here, particularly as you've got to fly into Hong Kong. You've got to fly into Hong Kong to get here. So it really lends a lot of weight to the international credibility of this race, which is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, a lot of these athletes, recreational athletes, have that bucket list of marathons that they want to do. Obviously, Chicago, New York, Tokyo, but you know, Hong Kong's becoming one of those now as well. Being a city, of course, that they can come enjoy and you know, have a race that is well organized, well maintained. So taking that off for some of these, as you say, 20,000 non-local athletes is a really good way for them to see the world, of course, and you know, Hong Kong to really showcase its ability as well.
It's really come such a long way in terms of prize money and the number of athletes, etc. And again, this ultra challenging undulating course, it's changed so much. I mean, before the first marathon we did here was in the actually in the early 90s, so it wasn't the official Hong Kong marathon with the current sponsor Standard Chartered. It was a different marathon, but it was basically the Hong Kong marathon. And I remember it was 92 or 93 maybe, interviewing the men's winner from Kenya. He had quite a thick accent, and I asked him what he'd do with the prize money, and he said, I'll buy a cow. And I thought he said car. And I said, a car? And he said, no, a cow. So that was, obviously the prize money was a lot less, but he was still farming. He was a farmer, he lived with his parents, and he said the first thing he would do with part of the prize money was buy a cow. So things, again, things have come a long way since then. Most of these top runners, they're based in Switzerland, even though they grew up training in East Africa. They do the European circuit, they're based there, and they make a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. A much more professional way to do it, and you know, just full-time athletes. Of course, these guys travel around the world, races throughout the year, as we said before, looking at the calendar, seeing which ones, you know, ideally have the most prize money, but certainly those ones that give them the points as well, to keep their gold and elite level status. They do need to do a minimum number of races per year. For example, having a 220 and below will allow you to be a gold level athlete, and then of course all those major ones that are around the world, competing in all of those, keeps their rankings up nice and high, allows them to be invited to some of these events where they do have the prize money.
So heading up now toward the Tin Cow Bridge, and you can just see the traffic on the right-hand side. Sometimes you'll see a flash of headlights there on the right. There you go. Because of course, I mean, Hong Kong Airport is it's a pretty busy operation, and they just cannot cut access to the airport. And you've got flights, you know, kicking off, I don't know, around 5 a.m. There is a bit of a curfew, I believe, at Hong Kong Airport still, I think. But certainly now the airport is a very, very busy place. So that's the main route to the airport. Apart from the train line, of course, which comes through a different route. So I guess phoning all else, I can just stick everyone on the train. So this is going against the traffic. So normally, yeah, so the runners are coming up toward us. Normally when you're coming back from the airport, you're driving on this road directly into the path of where the runners are now to get onto the off-ramp to get through that mountain onto Kowloon side. So it looks like one of our camera crew are having to turn around, get a few shots in a different direction. In fact, that's what they've had to do, because that is the turning point, not on the Tin Cow Bridge. They come across here just at the start of the airport bridge. They do a loop, and then they come around again, and then hang a left, and then head out onto the Tin Cow Bridge. Here we go. Again, you're now looking up toward the airport bridge, and we'll have a quick left here for Tin Cow. It's interesting, I don't recall this turning point at the last marathon. I don't recall them coming onto the airport bridge at all, but you can see, well, certainly on the map that we have in front of us, there's just that little turning point there, and then back, just to add some extra difference, distance, I should say, for some reason.
Yeah, of course, in previous years they did traverse the length of the Chiang Mai Bridge instead, but this year, for whatever reason, they've gone up to the Tin Cow Bridge. But this is probably at this point now, almost at the halfway mark. It's the highest amount of elevation, around about 70 meters. Doesn't seem like that much, but if you've already been running for an hour, it is quite steep as they get towards some of these bridges here, going up to 70 meters up the top.
I mean, even in a car, I mean, I've driven this route, goodness, I wouldn't say hundreds of times, but certainly a lot over 35 years. You don't even get an idea of the inclination when you're driving in a car. You just don't notice. But you speak to the runners who finished this race, and they'll tell you about every point where they'll say it was absolute murder getting, you know, beating one of these inclines again, particularly out of that West Kowloon tunnel.
You see the marker there, of course, 15 kilometers already. At the 50-minute mark right now.
And back with the women's field. So, boy, they have really thinned out. Look at that. So we still have Shite of Bahrain in the lead, but now she's really being pressured. So just to her, well, just tucked in behind her in the lilac-coloured top, that's Haftu Tesfaye of Ethiopia. one of the, you could say younger runners. She's 27, but the oldest in this race is actually 45. Caroline Keel of Kenya, part of the elite group of runners, is 45 years old. That's really quite incredible, running at this level at that age. Now back with the men. So we'll come back later to the women, but it's Haftu Tesfaye at 27 years of age with a PB of 2:25, who's actually looking in better shape there when we just caught sight of those women. So Kipkuri out in front there. Not too far behind him is Ethiopian Yadesa Arena, one of the younger members of the elite, in fact the youngest, I should say, the youngest member of the elite running group, who are not surprisingly all bunched together up here in the front. 21 years of age and a PB of 2 hours, 12 minutes and 43 seconds set at home in the Abibi Bikila Marathon in 2025. Abibi Bikila, I mentioned before, an absolute god of a sporting legend in Ethiopia. He is the #1 sporting hero for all young Ethiopians. Abibi Bikila, who won the Rome Olympic Marathon in 1960 and the Tokyo Marathon in 1964, and tragically ended up in a wheelchair after being hit by a car and died young. His wife said he died of a broken heart because he couldn't run anymore. So leading pack unchanged up the front. I'm not entirely sure if they've lost all their Asian runners. There was a Chinese runner, Glenn mentioned a North Korean up there as well, but I believe they have all dropped back, and we now just have a pack of Ethiopians and Kenyans. So you can see signs of the day starting here in Hong Kong in the background. The light just popping up behind these runners, and the traffic's starting to build up as well on the way out to the airport. So I believe they are actually on the Tin Cow Bridge right now, or just about to pop up there. So approaching the 1 hour mark, virtually impossible for any of these runners to crack the 2 hour mark in this race. Anything around 2 hours and 10 minutes will be seen as a decent time here in Hong Kong. Now that's a good shot. I don't recall seeing that in previous coverage here of the Hong Kong Marathon. Looking down from the north side onto the Tin Cow Bridge, you can just see the pack moving with the camera car just in front of them. And in the background, the lights of the Kwai Chung container terminal. Well, I've got to say, when you drive across here, you don't get a good idea of how high it is, but that angle there gives you a better impression of the impressive engineering structure that is the Tin Cow Bridge, which hovers just above Butterfly Beach, a designated Hong Kong swimming beach, popular beach, more of a bay beach, not ocean facing, of course, just underneath this bridge. In fact, to the left and just below there. I think Glenn was mentioning before, we were talking about a bit of the history of the marathon. You mentioned the women's race, the first Olympic women's marathon race was 1984. It took that long after years of pushing. And what were the reasons given again for not having a women's marathon before that?
Yeah, I guess we've certainly come a long way. 1984 is not that long ago, but certainly with a woman at that time, you know, obviously the equality has changed quite a bit, but at the time the thought was if they ran that long, the uterus would fall out. So hopefully,
yeah,
the science has since caught up, and smarter heads prevailed, and certainly now the women are just as competitive as the men on the professional circuit. Prize money's the same, $65,000 for the winner, men's and women's. So great to see that both males and females have an equal chance. A total prize pool of just over $300,000 US.
So, no, you're not hearing things. I think that is bagpipes that you can hear in the background. I have no idea where from. But somebody is playing bagpipes out there. There they are. They are probably police pipers. But who knows, if you've ever been hiking around the Aberdeen Country Park, there's a local chap who lives nearby in Chifu who plays the bagpipes, practices there every weekend. You'll hear it if you go up walking there on a Saturday morning. I've had a chat to him many times, and he tries to get as far away from people as possible so as not to disturb them, but it echoes right through the valley there. Well, it's interesting that people who didn't agree with women running a marathon, Glenn, just back to 1984, there was a horrendous case in that race of a Swiss runner. It was very, very, very hot. It was grueling for all the runners, and there was a women's competitor from Switzerland who just had not prepared for it at all, and it was an awful case of dehydration and, you know, mentally, she had no idea where she was. I think she got close to the finish line, but collapsed before and had to be taken away in an ambulance. Similar case in Hiroshima in 1994, I think, for the Asian Games. There was a pretty horrible physical collapse in the women's field there as well. But again, depending on the heat and prevailing conditions, you see it in the men's field as well. So the Hong Kong Marathon also quite rightly offering equal prize money for the men and women. Seems to be very common these days. $65,000 US for the men's or women's. There goes the 1 hour mark as we see them come back over the Tin Cow Bridge. So we've just clocked over officially 1 hour. So just under the halfway mark of this race.
Yeah, as you were saying before, the bridges, you can see quite a bit of breeze there. You know, their bibs are blowing around, so certainly, you know, those are the kind of conditions that are not too favourable for the athletes. The ribbons there you know, the shirts have been blown around quite a bit as they come back down the other side of the bridge.
I mean, that might be, we've got a, I mean, the weather has been cool lately, but there is a very cold front coming into Hong Kong this coming week, later this week. Maybe that wind is the change, a coming change in temperature. But yeah, Glenn, you can see how strong that is. And that's going to take, that'll take minutes off the finishing time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the ideal conditions are kind of below 10 degrees today in Hong Kong, 18 to 23. So it's certainly quite warm, but not only the temperature, wind, rain, humidity, those are all the conditions that make a race a little bit more difficult than it already is. And certainly that wind is going to add an extra few more minutes to their times.
Okay, there's the pacer that I was talking about before. The official pacer, it's Samir Nasser Sharif from Ethiopia, 33 years of age. And he's just there in front of some of the runners, including his compatriot is Kumsa, Chaltu Kumsa of Ethiopia. But it's still Shitei in the lead, representing Bahrain. But my bet would be not born in Bahrain, but from Ethiopia, and now competing for Bahrain. That's the way it works these days. Yeah. Asete Shitei, the women's leader at the moment, yeah, just wanted to double check that before saying, but yeah, she's born in Ethiopia in 1990 and now competes for Bahrain. Pretty much all of the Bahrainian athletes have been naturalized in Bahrain, but they've basically been paid quite a lot of money to compete for Bahrain. That's how it's been working for the last 20 years at least.
It's always interesting to see, you know, obviously when you get to Olympic stage, there's only a certain number of athletes you can send per country. So you see it with table tennis in China, I guess, as well. You know, all the top players, if they're not in the top 1, 2, 3 and they're not going to the Olympics, then what are the other options? You know, looking at different countries, naturalizing there, and then obviously still be able to compete at the Olympics. So, you know, every sport's the same, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a very cutthroat, you know, if you're really up the top, then you're doing really well, but if you're not, then you're got to look at your other options.
Like playing rugby for Japan. That's another one. So we are getting little flashes there, quick shots of some of the Hong Kong runners taking part in the race.
Yeah, we've got Wong Wan-chun. He's a two-time champion, of course, last year, the year before. He's got a PB of 2:15. He did that in the 2024, so hopefully we can get him here under the 2:20 mark. It'd be really fantastic. But just in the back there, you can see North Korea. Han from North Korea, one of the invited athletes, is just in the blue there. He's amongst all the other Ethiopians and the Kenyans, but look to him also to perhaps not necessarily a medal, but getting in the top there would be a great effort for him.
It was interesting, Glenn, just watching Sharif there pacing these ladies, really kind of almost coaching them through, slowing down, putting his arm out, just reminding them to kind of slow down as they made that turn. And they, you know, constantly looking back, seeing where they were and making sure that they were, or he wasn't getting too far ahead of them.
So they should be around about the 20k mark, around about halfway now, and this is probably the peak of the incline, getting up to just under 80 meters, and now they'll head down towards the Western Tunnel on a bit of a decline. See just in the left there, in the lilac purple, Ruto, who is our
I was just glad.
last
I was
champion.
literally just looking, just double checking some times for him. Yes.
Yeah, of course, he's our last year's champion at 2:11.13, just to the left of your screen there. That's actually the first shot we've seen of him today in this first 1 hour of the race. But he's been in the pack, but certainly looks pretty comfortable there. Let's see if he's going to make a move sooner or later, to see if he can repeat as the champion from last year.
Yeah, interesting that, you know, again, that time, it just says it all. It just, you know, it tells you what to expect for the Hong Kong Marathon. You mentioned his winning time of 2 hours, 11 minutes, 13 seconds to claim the title last year. But he still wants to beat the Hong Kong record set by his compatriot Barnabas Kiptum in 2019. That was a time of 2:09.20. So that's the top mark for the Hong Kong Marathon. But it's Kip Kemboy who is the defending champion here, as Glenn mentioned. Kip Kemboy, who has Ruto plastered across his top. He's now 33 years of age. That's Douglas Kipragut out in front now, of Kenya. 36 years old is Kipragut, and a PB of 2:08 exactly, 2 hours and 8 minutes on the mark, and that was set in Wuxi in China last year. Also a PB that was set by Langat, was also in that race, also set a PB there. So pretty solid guy for a top marathon runner. Pretty bulky up top. An unusual sight. He is very big for someone who runs 42 kilometers for a living.
Yeah, just looks like maybe Douglas Kipragut is making a little bit of a move, trying to thin out this front pack a little bit. But see to the left, Silas 2 from Kenya, keeping with him. We saw Han from North Korea also. He's got a PB of 2:09, so he can certainly stay with this pack if he needed to. But it's always difficult to race strategy, see if you can make a break, but typically if they do it too early, you don't want to blow up too quickly, going out too hard, too fast, because the main pack will typically draw them back in unless they can get out there by themselves.
Yeah, we've seen the lead change so many times. Just in the last 1 or 2 kilometres, racing down through Wan Chai Causeway Bay, heading into Victoria Park. I mean, you know, keep your eyes peeled to the very end because the lead can change just like that. Much better place to finish Victoria Park than where they did for many years at Bohemia Square in Wan Chai near the Convention and Exhibition Centre. That just got too cramped. It was a little bit chaotic. Plenty more room at Victoria Park. It's a much better place to finish, and that's where we're finishing today.
Yeah, when you've got 74,000 athletes coming through, obviously at different times, but you know, having a bigger space for them to finish, get their prizes, recover, get their drinks, obviously all the bags. It's a huge undertaking for sure, but it seems Victoria Park is the sensible location to be at the finish. But these guys here, more than halfway down, well past the 20-kilometre mark now. But this main pack for pretty much this first hour have stayed pretty tight. No one's made a move yet. Get another shot of the woman now. Yes, again from Bahrain, still there at the front. Sharif pacing them well, but certainly the woman now thinned out to, looks like around about 3 or 4 athletes at the front there.
So I was just digging into the paperwork we have here, Glenn, trying to get a name for one of the runners in that pack. He has no name, only a number. Can't find the number. But looking back there at 2 of our runners from China, and this is quite an interesting thing to watch in the top left corner. That runner, as you mentioned, North Korea, out in front at the moment. Let's see how long Han can hold on. He looks strong though, running in this group, staying with them for 20 kilometres as they emerge from this tunnel, the Qing tunnel that takes you out to the airport. And you've got to question what he's doing. It seems like an early stage to make this sort of break. Maybe he just wanted to get clear, feel a bit of fresh air on his face, but for the moment, he's holding out there in the front along with Silas Kiprono 2 from Kenya. Yeah,
Ruying Han from North Korea. He's 26 years of age, PB 209, which just some of the other ones we said, Wuxi at Marathon and Wuxi in China. That's where he did his personal best. So he's capable for sure. 209 is a fairly decent time. don't know if he'll be able to do that today on this course, but he is certainly capable of going under 210. This obviously the course record for this one, 209, kept him, Andrew, you said before, 2019 is the course record. So you see Han out there in front now, but I'm sure the pack will slowly bring him back in.
Yeah, again, I mean, I don't know, it's perhaps a questionable place to make a break. He's got Francis Langat on his toes. Langat also one of the younger runners at 26 years of age. In fact, he's the exact same age as Han from North Korea. And I'm sure he's looking ahead at him thinking, who are you? Who are you and what are you doing out there in the front at this early stage? But look at these two. Look at the distance they're now putting Langat and Han between themselves and the main pack. Now, that is a noticeable gap. That is not the sort of thing that you're going to say, it's not a gap, and the guys at the back will catch them quickly. This is something, they've obviously both decided they're going to build a lead. So, 1 hour 17, so we're absolutely within the last hour of this race, probably the last 55 minutes or so, and that gap is actually further than it looks because of the angle that we have here. We're looking back at them. Wow, this is very interesting. So what you don't get in this race is the atmosphere, the spectators on the, lining the roads, which Olympic marathon courses are deliberately chosen for that. They're not chosen for practicality. They're chosen to make the most of a city, to see all the main tourist sites, to get the locals down there cheering people on. So that old British movie, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, really does apply here to the Hong Kong Marathon. So it looks like Han's little burst is over already. Again, you've got to question those tactics. Why burn yourself off for no reason at pretty much the halfway stage of the race? Back here with our two runners from China, one of whom was with the leading pack for a while, but they're now back still in the tunnel. It's really quite amazing how far this leading pack is ahead of the rest of the field. I mean, the pack, by its very nature, the leading pack is always ahead, but they are really a long way ahead and on a good time at the moment as well, despite that wind we saw on the bridge.
You kind of sense a little bit of a pickup in the pace. Obviously now they're on a bit of a decline as they head towards back towards the Western Tunnel.
Yeah, they'll be loving this, and I guess this is where they can make up some time, make up for lost time and all those earlier inclines, so it balances out in a way toward the end, but it's still, overall, it does slow the time down, as we see from the winning times. 2:09, the course record, 2 minutes flat is the world record. So Han's staying with them. He's definitely staying with them, but again, he's behind, but absolutely don't write him off yet. He's still in the top 5. So here comes Arena Gemachu Arena from Ethiopia, just 21 years of age. He's the man in the middle there in the bright green shirt, sitting right now in what looks like 4th place. It's interesting, quite a few of these best times amongst the elite runners were set at Chinese marathons. Another one of the races where some of these runners have set their best times, it was in Xiamen in Fujian province, not that far from Hong Kong. Yeah, that's interesting. Coming down this straight, 2 water tables back there, not a lot of water on there. A couple of runners were looking, they took a look and then had to keep running because there was nothing really there for them. But you notice the top runners, they just ignore those water tables. They just kept going. Obviously, they don't need it just yet. But Glenn, it must be such a fine science to stay hydrated somehow for a 42-kilometre race, so your body doesn't literally pack in because it's out of fluid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, some of the conditions will make that better or worse, and you know, if it's warm, if it's humid, then you're going to sweat certainly a lot more. Being hydrated not only during the race but before the race, after the race is really, really important. It was good to see the top 3 women, but certainly that would be part of their race strategy. If you're not drinking any fluid throughout the race, you're certainly going to lose fluid. If you're losing fluid, your blood volume will go down, your heart has to work faster, has to work harder. So certainly that would be part of their race strategy, making sure they know. You see some of the top guys have their electrolytes at certain points around the track. So that the first bits of the table, you'll see they'll identify their bottles, grab them, and if they got them set around the course. But obviously the water stations are there for a good reason at certain places around, at certain distances as well. You see there some of the women, either gels or sports drinks or at least water, trying to keep themselves hydrated throughout the 42 kilometres.
I mean, obviously it's cool here in Hong Kong, although it was certainly warmer than it has been the last week or so, leaving home this morning. But we are heading into a cold snap next week. But the main thing is, it's despite the temperature, it's dry. It's very, very dry in Hong Kong at the moment. That also creates its own issues with staying hydrated. Well, a couple of people bumping into each other there, tripping up. Nothing too serious though, thankfully. So Gebre, now one of the leading runners in this pack. Again, you can't read too much into it, but Mekwant Gebre of Ethiopia, 35 years of age. He's moving into the front there, and a red flag here is the fact that he's got a PB of 2 hours and 4 minutes, 2:04. That is a cracking time, 2:04:46. That was set in Sevilla in Spain, Sevilla. Way back in 2020 though, So that top form was a while ago, but he is still there. He's Gabriel in the kind of pinkish T-shirt in the middle. So we're seeing some of the a few different names amongst the leading pack creeping through here, changing hands. And Han is still there. They haven't blown him off yet. He is still up in that leading pack, very much so.
Yeah, good to see one of the invited international athletes. And of course, you know, looking at the history of this race, we said 1997 was the first one. This is a 28th edition of the Hong Kong Marathon. In 2012, it became a bronze level IAAF road race. And then in 2013, becoming silver. And then 2016 becoming a gold IAAF race label. So it's certainly come a long way from the very first 1997 one, and with just over 1,000 athletes now today, 74,000 in total.
Yeah, that's an incredible number, really. And again, the fact that probably around about 20,000 of them have flown into Hong Kong for the race, and you know, that's a great little boost to the Hong Kong economy as well. You've got 20,000 athletes. They're going to have a crew of at least one person with them. Not all of them, but some of them will come with one or two people. They're staying in hotels. They're staying for a couple of days. Well, at least a couple of days, probably, you know, a few days leading up to this. So Hong Kong doing its utmost to really re-establish itself on the world map for tourism. I'll tell you something else you notice in Hong Kong now. More tourists from Western countries in Hong Kong. Everyone's talking about it. They're off cruise ships. They're coming in. You see them taking walking guided tours around Hong Kong. So growth buds, let's say. And this is one of the foundation events of Hong Kong, one of the key things that brings people into town. Hong Kong Sevens, of course, another one in April.
Yeah, I think having a supportive government, supportive community that is getting behind some of these things is obviously really, really important. You know, the new Kai Tak Stadium, as you said, for the Sevens, but this is one of the landmark events for sure on the sporting calendar, putting Hong Kong on the global map.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you know, the Sevens is great. We all love it. It's a big international event, but by most measurements, the Hong Kong Marathon is much more important. Much more important. So Gebre, Arena, Kiprono, Tu and Suter. Who will it be? One of these guys? Or will it be Han? Out in the far left, hiding there behind Suter and Tu. And he has not dropped back at all. He's not leading, but he's absolutely not done with this race. Okay, I've just been told by our producer Albert, a little reminder that we're just coming up to the 1.5 hour mark. A key posting for these guys. They're all wearing watches. They absolutely have to. Runners have done this, going right back to the great Finnish middle distance runner Paavo Nurmi. He would also set himself markers. He'd run with a stopwatch, and then when he realised he'd hit his last marker and he knew he was ahead of time, he'd toss the stopwatch onto the grass and then finish the race. It's back in the days before wristwatches.
Yeah, certainly nowadays I think all these watches, GPS, you know, heart rate, everything, they've got all that data there to give them certainly a better idea. So certainly some of the times that you've seen over the years have dropped down to, as we said at the start, just over 2 hours is the world record. But as we know, it's a part of the World Marathon Majors, the top 7. We've all heard of Tokyo, Boston, London, Sydney, Berlin, Chicago, New York. Those are the top tier, certainly, marathon events. But Hong Kong now is a gold label event. Of course, different labels around the world. They have platinum, elite, gold, of course, depending on the amount of prize money, the type of athletes that are coming. But certainly this one, a gold label event, is one that attracts some very decent athletes for sure. And as we can see, Tu being one of them. He has a PB time of 2:06. So a lot of these athletes certainly have competed in those marathon majors, the top 7. So let's see how they finish up in today's race.
Well, we don't have spectators for probably 90% of this, no, 95% of the circuit. But what they do have is a fan base amongst the other runners. So we've got the stragglers there, people running the half marathon, or, you know, the 10K, all sorts of things. Seeing their idols, the big stars of this race, and they're not cheering themselves on. They're just, that's the wow factor for them. Running past and getting almost within touching distance of some of the best runners in the world, the guys who are actually going to go on to win this race. Hopefully we'll get a shot soon to see where the women are, and if that lead has changed. I would suspect probably not. You're almost certainly going to see Chitay of Bahrain still leading that women's field. Now, coming past into West Kowloon, past places like Olympic, before they head down into the Western Tunnel. So finally we get some audible atmosphere here as we get down to the business end of things here in the Standard Chartered Hong Kong Marathon 2026. So the man of the moment there, although it's still very competitive, Han in the blue strip there in 3rd place right now. So again, he is absolutely not out of it, but it's Silas Tu of Kenya who is leading at the moment, 38 years old, with a personal best time of 2 hours, 6 minutes, 32 seconds set in the Netherlands in 2021. So 1997, Glenn, we've here at TVB, we've done the Hong Kong Marathon every single year. But to be honest, and I think it's fair, I certainly can't remember the exact route of that first marathon in 97. I believe all this infrastructure was built back then, but the airport didn't officially open and start taking flights until 98. But it was built in 97. I believe all this was finished the year before. So I would take a gamble and say that it was this same route on the expressway, but I can't be 100% sure.
Yeah, I think part of it was certainly it was a cross-border race heading up Seongsu and then Shenzhen. I think is where it finished. But yeah, going back a few years, 1997 was that very first one, and then since then coming leaps and bounds, of course. In 1999, from IFC Western Harbin Tunnel, finishing as you mentioned earlier in Samseo-pol, and that was only 7,000 athletes at that time.
That's incredible. I mean, 7,000 people, mind you. That's a big field. That's a big field. This field is staggering, and it's just so popular amongst Hong Kongers taking part. I mean, we all know people who do the 10K run. The 10K run, occasionally maybe the half marathon, but certainly the 10K. It's incredibly popular. In fact, if you look at the field, just breaking it down, I think you mentioned this before, Glenn, the full marathon, 17,413 runners. The half marathon, 24,954. But the 10K run, that's the big one, which is why you get so many local runners here. 31,633 runners. Local runners making up 73% of the total field here.
Yeah, certainly a 10K is a good one to start with. You know, even if an hour and a half perhaps, maybe up to 2 hours. We got the women's shot there. The top three, of course. We did say Chitay from Bahrain would still be there in this year's in the red shoe, in the orange or pink shoes there. But this field certainly much thinner than the men's. The top three there certainly have been there and thereabouts for most of this race, whereas the men, almost 10 to 15 of them in that top pack. But the women's, of course, last year, the best time was Nazarana from Belarus, but she's got also the track record of 2:26. So they're certainly just over halfway for the women, but the men are maybe around about 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, just coming up to the 140 mark. So just as we left the women, it was Haftu Tesfaye of Ethiopia, the 27-year-old leading her personal best of 2:25 set in Poland in 2024. Well, look at Han. That would be really an incredible result if Han could even finish in the top three. Again, he's not a complete outsider, of course. Han is, if I can say so, pretty handy runner, 26 years of age. Don't forget, he's got a PB of 2:09.42, and that was only set 2 years ago in Wuxi in China. So the two Kenyans literally helping themselves, helping each other there. I mean, the Ethiopians and the Kenyans, they always run as a team. They always have.
So these guys are the leading pack now, probably just around the 30-kilometre mark as they head down into the Western Tunnel, and there'll be a bit of a decline there, probably at least around about 50 metres down as they come back up.
Just looking over there to some of the taller buildings here on West Kowloon. I mentioned the Olympic area before. It's a lot of high-end apartments in this area, and of course the big IFC building on Kowloon side, which houses a lot of the big banks, and the Ritz-Carlton Hotel as well. So it's maybe at this point that Han is perhaps feeling a bit of burnout, along with some of the other guys from Kenya and Ethiopia, and we might start to get see things stretch out in more of a straight line as opposed to a bunch. Han tucks himself back in there in third place though, and you could still easily say that that is a credible launch pad for a run at the lead, even at this point, as they head down into the Western Harbour Tunnel. But what goes down must come up, and they have a murderous climb at the end, which really sorts the men out from the boys, so to speak.
Yeah, it's around this 30-kilometre mark of it. You know, if you've ever run a marathon, it's called hitting the wall when the amount of glycogen we have in our body starts to get depleted, and it starts to get pretty tough at this point. So race strategy will change a little bit now. Maybe those that are feeling a little bit better, they'll make a little bit of a push, but that 30-kilometre mark certainly is the point where it starts to get a little bit tougher. Been going for an hour and a half. All the muscle glycogen that you had, all the nutrition that you've had previously starting to deplete. So this is where we'll see maybe a little bit of a stretch for this leading group of, we had about 10 to 12 for the first hour and a half of this race. So let's see if there's a little bit of push there if they get down to the decline here, and then there's about a 30 to 40 metre increase as they get to the middle of the tunnel.
Yeah, well, you can see they're already well, I mean, that looks like they're coming up, but I believe that actually the angle is that they're either on the flat or still going down. It's a little bit deceptive. Either way, I believe it's fair to say we're now looking at the leading pack, and the others are not going to catch them. So we're now down to a leading pack of 4 people. Yeah, it's very unlikely that any of them are going to catch up heading up the hill. As we see the 2 Chinese runners, again, one of whom was up in the leading pack before, but we're continuing with them as they head down into the tunnel. So to be fair, they are quite a way back, but they're sticking together for the time being.
So it does look like they're starting to make a bit of an incline now as they reach the middle of the tunnel, go back up, and then they'll start coming onto Hong Kong Island side around the 35-kilometre mark. But let's see if we can get a glimpse of our previous champion, Ruto Bethwell Kipkemboi Ruto, who was our last year's champion with a time of 2:11. If we see him at the back there, just in the lilac, we remember him, but he should be there amongst the top, hopefully maybe just in the back there.
Yeah, just to clarify, we've got those 2 Kenyans in the white tops, but that's not in any way some sort of Kenyan national top, because we've got another Kenyan behind them too, Silas too, who's in the yellow and green top. So it's Kenya 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
Yeah, interesting, Andrew. That's what it finished last year. Kenya 1, 2, 3 as well. Of the top 26 athletes, 13 of them are from Kenya, so they will certainly be well represented. Ethiopia, of course, 1, 2, 3. There's at least 8 online Ethiopians as well.
You know what would be great right now if the cameraman could swing around and give us a quick shot of what's coming up the other end of the tunnel. That would help a lot. Yeah, fair to say, Glenn, they are absolutely cracking on up the hill on the incline to get out of the Western Tunnel. And again, there's that group of 4. Yeah, you could possibly say 5 if you want to include Bezunair from Ethiopia. The man with the darker coloured top and the mustache just at the back. Han of North Korea, not going anywhere. And he's decided to go on his own, out on the far right. So they've all got a fair idea about the course. I'm just trying to think where that comes out of the tunnel, if it makes sense to stick to the far right of that road or stay in the middle. I think you come up and you do. The road to Central is to the right, and it loops round over the road, which is a small underpass which goes to Kennedy Town. So yeah, Han's probably got the right idea, trying to stick to the right. Staggering silence of most of this race. I really wonder if they'd be inspired to put in a better time if there were more spectators lined along the track. They really won't get them until they come off the flyover down into, well, pretty close to Central. Then you may start to get a few people on the side, but not many. It's not until they get into, say, Wanchai Causeway Bay that you'll see people. But the thing is, it's still early. I don't actually ever remember crowds at any point through Wanchai or Causeway Bay lining the roads. Just a few people heading off to Sunday jobs, surprised to see the streets blocked off, and some of the world's best marathon runners coming through town. Kowloon in the background, Chimsa Choi in the background that you can see, the Palace Museum there, the sun just hitting the side of that magnificent, huge building over in West Kowloon. So we're already past the point where Han is thinking, okay, I cannot let these guys get away from me because there's no catching them if that happens. So that's one of our Hong Kong runners in the lower right. Out on his own and a long way back from the leaders. And that is our race leader at the moment, Francis Kipruria Langat of Kenya, 26 years of age, with a PB of 2:07. Unlikely that he's going to break that time here. Very unlikely, in fact, after that win they got buffeted by out on one of the bridges. But we're inside the last, Glenn, you'd say 20 odd minutes of the race?
Yeah, certainly past the 35-kilometre mark, so just 5 to 7 kilometres to go. Langat, of course, is in good form. His personal best was just last year, and Wuxi in China, personal best of 2:07. So good form for him. 2025 he did that, and it looks like he might be making a bit of a push now.
So Hong Kong's Wong Wan Chun, I believe, down there in the bottom right-hand corner. Wong Wan Chun, 29 years of age, and he's got a personal best of 2 hours, 15 minutes, 26 seconds set in 2024. So not exactly sure what position Wong Wan Chun is in at the moment as we pick it up again with our race leader, is now starting to put some serious space between himself and second place. So now still on the elevated expressway, passing through the Western District of Hong Kong, heading down toward Sheung Wan, sort of lower Sai Ying Pun Western, and we will get off this off-ramp pretty soon as they head up to where IFC 1 and Exchange Square is.
Yeah, that was a bit of a brutal incline there from the middle of the tunnel to where they are now, probably around about a 50-metre incline, which doesn't seem like much, but when you've already done 35 kilometres of running for an hour and 40 minutes, that's a pretty tough ask. So that will certainly separate the field a little bit. As you can see now, that bunch of 10 to 12 that we had for a good 1 hour, kind of 45 minutes is started to spread out a little bit. But Melaku Bezanu from Ethiopia, his personal best of 2:06 in Berlin in 2024. He certainly caught up to Langat, and then let's see if these are the two that are going to make the push. If we remember last year, the difference between 1 and 2 was very, very slim. Of course, Ruto, he finished in 2:11.
So Langat has someone very much on his shoulder, as Bizunair of Ethiopia stalks the leader at the coming up to the 1:54 mark. So it's Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2, Kenya 3 at the moment. Langat is not going to like being pressured like this as they head down into the central district of Hong Kong. So this is going to be quite the duel between these two. They still have a long way to go, don't forget. They've got at least 15 minutes of running time left, quite a few kilometres, but they are absolutely on the home stretch.
Yeah, the difference between 1 and 2, we were mentioning 2:11.13 was the winner at Ruto last year. 2:11.36, so only 20-second difference between the first and the second last year. And then another 4 seconds behind that was third place Kenya 1, 2, 3. But looks like maybe Bizane, he's putting a bit of a push. See if he can increase this distance between him and Langat from Kenya.
Yeah, look at that. He's just in the last kind of 500 meters. He's burned past him, and he's going to build that lead. He's now, what's that, 5 meters ahead. They look a lot closer than they are at the moment from this angle, but he's really starting to build this lead. Well, who would have thought? I mean, he really looked like he was out on his own, Langat. Francis Langat, looking like he had it all stitched up, but now Bizonaire. And when you're down to your last reserves of energy and hydration, this sort of stretch is very, very hard to catch someone.
So the course record of 209, of course, Kiptum in 2019. If he can get under 209, he'll get another 12,000 US for beating the course record. If he can get it under 210, it's another 8,000. So
I'll tell you what, let's see if he's on target for that. As we come past, it looks like all the ferry terminals down on the waterfront here, directly in front of IFC. All the ferries that go out to the likes of Discovery Bay, Lama, Lantau, they're past that area as he continues to build up this lead. So I guess you could say the battle at the moment now is just on for third and fourth place, but let's see, still a way to go. And let's see what happens with the women's field. We will get a shot of them soon, I would think, and of course we'll come back and watch them all finish. But it looks like Tesfaye, the last time we left, had just taken the lead from Chitay of Bahrain. We don't have the computer information on that, only relying on our pictures so far, but we'll cut back to them soon. So let's stick with these leaders, and it's Meleku Bizonaire from Ethiopia, 36 years old, let's not forget. That's something else to note. So one of the veterans of this race really looks like he has this in hand. Langat, though, still hovering behind, but dropping a few steps further back with every 100 or so meters. So finally we're getting some spectators, and this is what it would have been great to see for the whole race. A lot of them, to be fair, are people involved in the race. A lot of official photographers, some amateur photographers, but this is definitely a public area. It's a place where spectators can come down if they want and line certain areas of the street, just behind those police barricades. Look how far he is ahead now. Goodness. I'm just so keen to see this time. Meleku Belechu Bizonaire of Ethiopia. He's completely lost Langat. There he is. Langat's just coming around the corner now as they run. Not exactly sure where that is. Heading into Wanchai.
Yeah, I think if they get a shot just by the Ferris wheel in Central along the, and then they'll come up to Tamar Park around that area. Yeah,
there you go. You can well spotted, Glenn. You can see the wheel, the big wheel in the background. So just coming up to the 2 hour mark. This is. We've got to say, this looks like it's going to be a good time. So just coming up to 2 hours now, and this that point there is where the actual world record is, 2 hours sharp. And now we've clocked over, heading up toward the Hong Kong record of 2:09. Let's see if Bizonaire can break that. We are heading to Victoria Park. He's looking at his watch, he's getting a bell, and he's thinking bonus as well. All those financial bonuses Glenn was talking about, depending on what sort of victory you pull off. But now this is Bizonaire's race to lose. He is miles in front.
Yeah, certainly if you keep this up, $65,000 in his pocket. If you can get under 209, which is the course record made by Kiptum in 2019, he'll get another 12,000. If you can get under 210, another 8,000. So certainly a little bit of a decline now. Good prize money for the winner.
Yeah, just coming past on the far side of the massive government headquarters complex here, around the kind of the Wan Chai Admiralty area, little underpass here, heading up toward the Convention and Exhibition Centre in Wan Chai. Well, we don't have the crowds here, but this is terribly exciting. Keep your eye on that clock, because we could be looking at a new best time here. He is absolutely powering along, coming up to the 2:02 mark, and he's racing. There's government headquarters in the background, pretty spectacular architectural building. Can he crack that time? It looks like it's going to be a good one regardless, as he comes up to the 2:02 mark. Bezenaire almost smiling, or perhaps he is. Bezenaire of Ethiopia, really very much charging along. And the last time we checked, it was also an Ethiopian leading, I should say, the women's section. Now it looks like there might be a battle on for second and third between those two Kenyans. But again, it's Bezenaire's race to lose right now.
Yeah, Kenyan back at number 2 and 3, Silas 2, and then Francis Alangat. So I don't think they've got enough in them perhaps to catch up as they head towards Wan Chai in the Exhibition and Convention Centre. So it's around about here. It'll be the 40-kilometre mark, so just over 2 kilometres to go. And there's a shot of the second and third place.
Now this is actually coming underneath the Convention and Exhibition Centre, running through the car park and bus terminal area, underneath that magnificent waterfront building.
So if this is around about the 40-kilometre mark, they've got about 2 kilometres to go. They usually finish that in 3 to 4 minutes. So if you can get there in just under 8 minutes, 2:11 maybe, 2:10 if you can really push it.
Let's just double check. So we're now giving him seconds to play with as well, because the Hong Kong best time, as Glenn mentioned before, set in 2019 by Barnabas Kiptum, is 2:09 and 20 seconds. So that's what he's got to play with to try and break the course record. This is great. Again, the importance of having a good sports watch on your wrist when you're running a race like this, and thinking about bonuses and legacy as well, if you can put it that way. He is charging ahead because he really, really wants to try and catch this course record and finish under 2:10. Two Kenyans further back battling for second and third place. Now, look at that. There's our pacer and our women's leader. So, it looks like Shite outlasted Tesfaye. In fact, she's nowhere to be seen. Still being led by the official pacer, Samir Sharif. But there's your race leader at the moment. And can he do it? Can he break this time? So coming up now, over one of the flyovers that takes you over the top of Lockhart Road in Wanchai. In fact, I think it takes you over Hennessy and Wanchai, past the Wanchai Sports Ground. Then they'll come down to the bottom of this flyover and hang a left and wind their way through Causeway Bay to get up to the finish line. Again, yet another stunning day here in Hong Kong. This race for the men's field, the top of the field, will be over before the day really gets started. Now into the shopping district and onto Lockhart Road. Glenn, I hope your maths is correct, because he's very close to Victoria Park. And we've only just gone over 207. Charging through the shopping district of Wanchai and Causeway Bay now. It's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight, because from this point exactly, he's now got 2 minutes left to try and get under that course record. Wow, this would be an incredible feat. I mean, apart from that wind out toward the airport, it's absolutely perfect conditions for running. And Bizonaire, who was hovering back in the early stages of the race, you could always see him there. He was hovering around 4th, 5th, 6th place, and he stayed in there, leaving his burst until around the Western Tunnel, or just out of the tunnel. And is he going to get there? On the tram lines now, tucking around toward the back of Causeway Bay. Yes, just passing the massive and iconic Sogo department store. I was in there just the other day, actually. Now, literally around the back of Victoria Park. So, an official race escort trying to tell the camera crew to get forward and directing Bizonaire onto the right part of the track, the correct part of the track. There's the battle for second and third further back. Oh goodness, I don't think he's going to make it. He's within like 30 seconds. Well, I don't recall seeing that either. A bicycle escort crowd. Oh, he could make it. He's got a charge. Look at this. It's 2:09.08. If he can get over the line, he's got 10 seconds to beat. He will know exactly what time. 16. Oh. We've just cut away. He's asking for, well, he comes across the line now, but he's outside the course record by a fraction. Here we go. There's our race winner in a fantastic time, but it's not the course record. That is wonderful to see. He deserves to do that. The organisers love it. Adding a bit of character to this race. 2 is in second. Well, that's ironic. 2 finishes number 2. And Langat, oh, great atmosphere down here at the finish line. The Kenyans, I mean, these guys live out of each other's pockets on the circuit, in their training. Even the Ethiopians, close neighbours geographically, but again, they all train and run around together. They know each other so well. This is one of the friendliest finishes we've ever seen here at the Standard Chartered Hong Kong Marathon. What a great scene, and what a stunning victory by Meleku Bizonaire of Ethiopia. And there's Han of North Korea. He stuck with them for so long. He led the race at one point, and he finishes just over 2:10. So really spectacular times all round. Now up the top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner, I should say, that's our what appears to be our women's winner. She hasn't crossed the line yet. Shete of Bahrain, born and raised in Ethiopia, but running for Bahrain. Bottom right screen there is our top Hong Kong runner. That's Wong Wan Chun, number 18062, 29 years of age. But here's your women's winner, just going through the motions here, leading us up to the finish line. She's still got a way to go. She's now only just at the Star Ferry area, all the ferries that go out to the outlying islands, so she's got another couple of minutes to go. But she'll be happy because she is cruising through to win this race, and she'll probably clock up a good time as well.
Yeah, of course, before we saw Bizonaire finish 2:09.36. The course record was 2:09.20, so he wasn't too far away, but certainly got under that 2:10 mark, which is another $8,000 for him, which is a very, very good effort on in today's conditions, of course. But for the woman, Shete, she has a PB of 2:20, which she did last year in Hamburg. So she'll be looking to see if she can get in. The course record is a 2:26. So if she can get under 2:26, that would be a fantastic effort for her today. Of course, that record, Mazuronak from Belarus, who did it in 2019. So perhaps the best conditions for men and women 2019 was the course record at the moment. So she might be able to do that, 2:26. She's still around about 13 minutes away, and I think she could probably get under 2:26 if she can to beat this course record.
Tell you what, we're going to have to wait a long time to see who comes in second and third in the women's race. Look at that.
Don't see that
Look
at all,
at that gap.
Shete here from Bahrain, as you mentioned, born and raised, but she's 36 years of age, PB of 2:20, so she's perhaps won't get there at the 2:20 today, but if she can get under 2:26, but certainly another course record 2:26. If she can get under 2:27, she gets another $8,000 US. And again, if she can beat that course record of 2:26, she gets another 12,000 on top of the 65,000 for winning the women's.
Yeah, not a bad purse for running for 2 hours. And again, another example of the loneliness of the long distance runner. When you're that good, you're often out on your own. So still also sticking. I like the way they've done this. We've got our top Hong Kong runner, Wong Wan Chun, down at the bottom right. He looks like he's feeling it, actually. The pace is a little slow, but he is also all out on his own. And Let's see, he looks like he's waning just a little bit, but he's so close to home. He's going to be fine. The 29-year-old with a personal best of 2:15.26, only set just a couple of years ago. Wow, she's absolutely demolished this field, this women's field. I'm not sure if she's actually smiling there or grimacing, but she's looking pretty comfortable. A really good steady stride as they come past the, I guess, the festival area, if you like, where there's currently a circus-style fair on there at the moment. The Clock and Flat Music Festival is held over there. Of course, it's just a flat open area for all sorts of festivals because they can't build on it. Of course, because the Wan Chai bypass is underneath and you can't build buildings on top of a tunnel. So that will remain open area in Hong Kong forever.
Yeah, Shitty here. Shitty Chate is, as we said, nationalised to Bahrain. Obviously, she's going to be an Asian champion, 10,000 metres, 2011, 2013, 2019, indoor champion, 3,000 metres, so really cleaning up in the Asian championships. But she is certainly one of the premier marathon runners in the world, not only in Asia.
Yeah, and things like the prize money here, Glenn, of course, is, you know, it's not nothing, but it is nothing in compared to the overall huge financial benefit she gets by running for Bahrain. Big money for an African athlete to take up residency and nationality in Bahrain and run for them. Big financial incentives. So she'll be made in the shade, not just from winning prize money like the $65,000 US here.
Yeah, 2009 is when she first started competing for Bahrain. Of course, and then since
that's a long time.
Yeah, she's been in there for a while already, and then started cleaning up, and obviously all these long distance events, 10Ks, 10,000 meters at any of the athletic championships. But certainly a world-class athlete in her own right for sure. So again, keep an eye on that time. 2:20 is her PB. Again, our course record 2:26.
Well, the gap between first and second here in the women's field has got to be at least 2 minutes, I'd say, possibly even more. It may have gone up to 3 minutes. I think we may have had a couple of dropouts. I mean, we haven't been able to see the field, but we had a Kenyan runner and an Ethiopian behind, and they're just nowhere to be seen. So I'd say from that leading pack of 3 or 4 women runners at one point further back near the Tin Cow Bridge, when it looked like they were all staying with each other, I suspect we've had at least one person actually drop out or suffered some sort of injury that's dramatically cut back the pace at which they've been running. So there's Chate just coming out from underneath the Convention and Exhibition Centre. And just a reminder, that's where they actually used to finish the race. Just in front of there, Bahinia Square on the waterfront in front of the Convention Centre. But it just you know, with the expansion of the field, we've now got nearly 75,000. It was just too small to hold all those people. So Victoria Park was the natural choice. There's so much space there. And then you've got time for runners who are completely finished and cleaned up to actually get out of that area as well to make room for everyone else. So Wong Wan Chun, he's in some sort of huge gap there. He's, you know, behind. He's behind the. He's behind the women's leader. He's obviously a long way behind the men's winning field. But he is all out on his own there. But again, I would say, I mean, just by the looks of it, if you can look at the two different strides, look at Wong running and look at Shitei running, she is in a whole different class at the moment. Again, different runners, they experience injuries along the way, energy burnout, and it affects the way you run. But Wong really looks like he is struggling a bit to make it all the way to the finish line. And he's got a big incline here, that flyover that takes you up over into Lockhart Road in Wanchai before you hang a sharp left to head up to Victoria Park. So 2:21. So he'll be looking at, what do you estimate from here, Glenn? 2:30, 2:32 from here? Particularly at this pace, you can see he's slowed down quite a lot. Yeah, the police out in force this morning all over Hong Kong, particularly on West Kowloon, in that area, all areas of Lower Kowloon. So many streets blocked off, so many police roadblocks, other police motorbikes and cars driving all over the place. Not the sort of place you would have to get out of in a hurry around 6 o'clock this morning when the race kicked off.
Yeah, brutal little incline. It's only a short 10-15 meters, but after being running for 2 hours and 20 minutes, it's a pretty tough ask to get up a little incline there. But coming down into Causeway Bay, into Wanjai there, as they're finishing off, certainly running on empty now, but really digging deep and trying to finish this race in a decent time. We saw Shitei there. We said her PB was 2:20. She's trying to go for the course record of 2:26, so she's still around about 3 minutes out. She might be able to get there. So that record was set in 2019. Marizonak from Belarus had that best time. So let's see if she can get there in just under another 3 more minutes if she can. 2:26.13 is the time to look for the course record.
Shame we don't have more spectators out on the streets watching these runners. Certainly the Hong Kong public have known about this race for a long time, particularly if you drive around Hong Kong. There are plenty of warning signs more than a week leading into the race as you drive over certain flyovers in Hong Kong. Big lit up signs warning about big sporting event in Hong Kong, road closures. It's only for half a day though. They'll lift the restrictions later on in the morning before midday. But again, the airport expressway was used for this race, but there was a section of it open the whole time, so that people could still easily drive out there and back. So following our women's leader now over the 2:25 mark, and she's getting closer to the finish. And there's our Hong Kong star Wong Wan Chun. Doesn't look distressed, but he's taking his time, and he can, certainly for the Hong Kong field. Again, there's that direction to make sure the runners don't go off the chosen path. As Wong now comes onto the finish line area, our first Hong Kong runner, and then back to the women's leader there. It was hard to tell at one point who was ahead of who, but Wong is coming through across the finish line soon, and I do hope we cut back to that. As we follow the women's leader, and she is now, there's Wong. So Wong Wan Chun comes through just under 2:27, crosses the line, and finally he can afford to smile here. Yeah, they've had to keep Wong out of the way, because the important finisher here at this moment on this side of the track, of course, is the women's champion, $65,000 US, and a big win in just under, or right on, perhaps it was bang on 2:27 minutes. There's your women's winner, who led for most of the race, to be fair. Habta Esther Shitay of Bahrain, Ethiopian-born, 36 years of age. And despite being 36, she's still very much on top of her game, because her personal best of 2:20 was set just last year. So we have our women's winner, and do keep an eye on what's going on in the women's field here, because that second and third place for the women, they were a long way back. Yeah, in fact, Glenn, I cannot recall such a big gap between 1 and 2 in the women's field.
Yeah, for sure. That is a big difference. But 2:27, she just finished that. Maybe whether she can get the $8,000 bonus from getting over under 2:27. But she was just maybe 45 seconds off that the course record of 2:26.13.
So I think that might be. I'm just trying to catch the number on that. It may have been Wong Kai Lok of Hong Kong just crossing the line there. I'm not sure, but this must be no. So Tess Fei didn't blow out during this race. She grabbed the lead briefly, but then she obviously just didn't have the energy to keep up with our race winner. So it looks like in second place we're going to have Haftu Tess Fei of Ethiopia. There she is in the lilac-coloured top. She makes her way onto that finish, a bright green finish strip here at Victoria Park. So there's your number 2 in second place, a few minutes behind the winner. And this is Haftu Tess Fei of Ethiopia, 27 years of age, taking second place in the Hong Kong Marathon.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we said, you did say 2 minutes behind first and second. That's quite a big gap. And then in first place, Masai from Kenya, also 37 years of age, 2:29. There's your 1, 2, 3. Bahrain, Ethiopia, then Kenya. And then I guess the elation of finishing in the second place is still a good effort. Second place, still 30,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's less than half the prize money, but $30,000 US, still not too bad. So Masai a little unsure about exactly where to go. Tess Fei, a very grateful second place finisher there. So Glenn, what would be the routine of a runner finishing a race like this? Ideally, what you want to get into your body pretty quickly, that sort of thing, stretching, cramp?
Yeah, absolutely. Nutrition certainly important as quickly as you can. Fluids, electrolytes, certainly a carbohydrate to replenish all of the energy you've used up, and then straight into some recovery, massage, anything that's possible to recycle the blood and get it moving again. Obviously, after 2.5 hours of running, your body is well spent, so certainly trying to refuel and recover over the next week or so. But as you see on the right, all the local probably 10K runners, maybe half, maybe full marathons, not quite yet that, maybe half marathon and 10K finishes. So really a good effort from everyone, obviously the elite, but also all of the 74,000 competitors today in this 2026 Standard Chartered Hong Kong Marathon.
Yeah, so all the 10K runners, the half marathoners, they're over there on the right-hand side, being kept out of the way of the main finishing area where the main field are running. Again, it was we had a field of 70. Well, just Glenn's more accurate, closer to 74,000 runners. But there were only 17,413 in the full marathon, the 42-kilometre distance. And most runners, or the biggest category here by far, was the 10-kilometre race. 31,633 registered runners, because that's what the locals love. So many Hong Kongers do the 10K run here for the Standard Chartered Marathon. Again, we had a wheelchair race here as well, 12 participants. Or I should say, well, a total of, 33 in all. 2 different wheelchair races, 33 competitors in all.
So of course, total prize pool this year, just over $300,000 US, 65,000 for the winner, but all the way down to number 10. They do pocket 1,000 US. Local winners, they also get a little bit more. Of course, no course records were broken at this time. That would have been another 12,000 US in the pocket.
Very nearly though. Yeah,
we
very nearly saw it in the men's field. Literally, what was it? 15, maybe 20 seconds outside the course record. We were egging him on. Sorry, just looking at all these other runners coming in. I was trying to keep an eye out for Chow Yun Fat, who was in the field there somewhere this year. The famous Hong Kong actor, Hollywood star Chow Yun Fat was running somewhere in here. Maybe we'll be lucky to get a glimpse of him.
Yeah, he was doing the 10K. He did start at 7:50. So if he's doing it in around about an hour, maybe he's due to come in soon.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep an eye out for him. So now we're going to get a lot of Hong Kong runners and still the North Koreans, the massive North Korean contingent that's travelled to Hong Kong for this race, taking part. And you know, for people in Hong Kong who love to run, it's just amazing for them to just take part here, because it's not just the Hong Kong Marathon, it's a major marathon on the international circuit. So you're running as part of the international circuit, and that's the thrill of taking part in this, and the prestige, even if you're just a recreational runner.
So as we mentioned, the local runners, Wang Wanchun, who came in at 2:26.42. This is his third win, I guess, as a local. He's done it better. 2:21 was last year, 2:23 the year before, but 2:26 still not too bad. So he's run 3 years in a row, so good for him. And of course, We get a shot of Law Ying Chun, who was our last year's winner. I'm not too sure where she finished up, but yeah, we said North Korea. Han from North Korea, he came, I think it was around about 4th or 5th, which is a fairly decent job.
Yeah, which was consistent with his positioning for most of the race, really. He did lead very briefly at one point, but the whole time he was there with the front pack. 3rd, 4th, as far back as 5th, so that was a consistent finish for him.
2:35, yeah, in the invitation list there's at least 4 North Korean runners there in the women's pack, but 1 for the men. So yeah, North Korea have always been, in terms of Asian long distance running, very, very good. So for a local, if you're a local Hong Kong and you can get under 3 hours for the full marathon, you get 1,000 Hong Kong dollars. 3 hours 30 for the woman, another 1,000 Hong Kong. At one stage on the 25th anniversary was 10,000 Hong Kong if you came in under that 3-hour mark for men, or 3.5 hours for women. But since then, a little bit of a cash bonus for them too.
Well, Glenn, we were talking before about the first marathon at the Olympics which allowed women in, which was 1984 in Los Angeles. And of course the next Olympics is in Los Angeles, the 3rd time it's been held there. 1932 being the first one, then 84, and then 2028, the Olympics in LA once again. So that'll be interesting seeing that marathon revisited, depending of course on what time of year they hold it and the sort of conditions that it's run in. But the only way they deal with the heat, of course, at the Olympic marathons, if it is summer where it's being held, is they just kick off very, very early to try and beat the heat. In fact, I don't think we've ever had a cool Olympic marathon. They're basically all run in summer. They're all hot, except for Sydney. Sydney was September from memory, which is basically winter, or the first month of spring, I should say. So it's still very cool there. So that would have been a pretty pleasant run for those Olympic athletes. But everything else generally is held in summer. So that clock's still ticking there, 2 hours 38 minutes, with some of the less proficient runners coming in at that time. But let's not forget the very first Olympic marathon in 1896, won by Louis Spiridos of Greece. His time was 2:58, so only just under 3 hours. So that's how much time has been shaved off over the years. But that's the natural progression of sport. I mean, there's the books are littered with examples like that in all sorts of different sports, not just athletics. Another quirky one is that Johnny Weissmuller's winning time in the men's 100 metres swimming at the Olympics in 1928 wouldn't have even qualified him for the women's final in 1980. That's how far that progressed as well. Johnny Weissmuller, of course, famous for also acting as Tarzan.
Yeah, you can see there, Andrew, even looking at some of the times for the local winners, back in 1997 for the men's, 2:56 was the best time. You know, and then
for Hong Kong, that was the best time.
That was the best time. Yep, 1997.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Even the woman was 3 hours and 35 minutes. So, you know, all these times have certainly gotten faster and faster just locally. Obviously, again, Wong Wan Chun last year, 2:21 versus 2:56 in 1997. That's a huge, like almost 30-minute difference from the first. And then even for the women, 3:35 to 2:39 last year, almost an hour and a half difference. So
we have one of the Hong Kong women runners, are we going to see her coming round this bend? Yes, we are. And that is Lo Ying Chu, or Virginia Lo, whichever you like. There she is in the lilac top, number 38002. She's 28 years old, a personal best of 2:39, so she's already above that. Yeah, so she was looking for a personal best here, but she will. There she is now on the green. She won the local section of the women's full marathon title last year in a personal best of 2 hours 39:56. And again, she's over that, but still a good time. Just a couple of you can hear the announcer cheering her on. So Lo Ying Chu of Hong Kong crossing the line just over 2 hours 41 minutes, 2:41:26 it looks like. There she is. Yeah, well, she said she was hoping for, she said before this race, she was hoping for to break her PB, which was set at the recent national games, if the weather was perfect. Well, it was perfect, but still, this is a tough course. And coming through now, this is Leanne Zito. We've just cut away from her. We'll come back to her in a second. So Leanne Zito, 35 years old, another of the Hong Kong competitors. Here she is. Leanne Zito, bib number 31004, coming down close to the home stretch. Well, she's got brains and brawn, because Leanne Zito works her full-time job as an aircraft engineer. And she has got a smile on her face because she's looking to bounce back from an unfortunate incident in the National Games full marathon in November last year, where she was knocked down, which really scuttled her race. She needed bandaging for that, but this is a much more comfortable way for her to finish.
Yeah, maybe even
actually,
PB. Yeah.
No, I'm just double checking these figures here. She is going to break her personal best. She does, so she'll be over the moon. Leanne Zito, whose personal best was 2:43:59, has finished under that time. She will be ecstatic.
Yeah, decent effort. Yeah, 2:43:59 is her personal best. She did that last year, so certainly knocking almost 30 seconds off that time. She would be super, super happy about that.
Yeah, look at that. She knows exactly what she's done. Checking the watch, big smile. Great effort by her and Hong Kong.
Yeah, she did say coming into this it was more about enjoyment rather than finishing times, but the fact she could hopefully enjoy it, and then as she said, cross the finish line smiling, and she's certainly done that. Not only finishing with enjoyment, but also a personal best. So great effort from Leanne Zito. And of course, any female that finishes under 3.5 hours, another $1,000.
So more Hong Kong runners coming across the line. Again, it was a mainly local field here in the marathon overall, and I am including the half marathon and the 10K in that, but the overall field, 3/4 of the runners, roughly 3/4 were Hong Kong runners, which means you had about 20-odd thousand, maybe 25,000 people flying into Hong Kong to take part just in this marathon. So a good little tourist bump for Hong Kong. Adding to the general comeback in tourism in Hong Kong, numbers are up, income is up. So green shoots for Hong Kong, still recovering in many ways, tourism, retail, you name it, following COVID. So it's slow going, but good signs for sure as all the tail enders come through this marathon, coming up to 2 3/4 hours here. It's so interesting comparing the times over the years. Glenn mentioned the earlier winning times, which were way down on what we have here. And we nearly saw the course record broken by the men's winner earlier on. Around about 2 hours and 9 minutes. He was just outside the course record. That would have been stunning to see that mark fall. World record is 2 hours exactly, with a couple of seconds on top of that. But underneath 2 hours and 1 minute.
Yeah, not too far off. Maybe the conditions weren't ideal for a fast race today, but the men's, of course, Ethiopia, Buzine, he was finished in 2:09:36, which was 16 seconds outside the course record. The woman, of course, Shatay from Bahrain, she finished 2:27. She was around about 45 seconds off the course time. So again, maybe a little bit warmer, a little bit windier today, but certainly ideal conditions for some of the recreational athletes that we see finishing their 10Ks, maybe half marathons.
Well, hopefully, we've got around about 10 minutes left in the program. Hopefully, we may see somebody on the podium, at least one of the ceremonies, but we'll see. I believe we're rounding things out at about 9 o'clock. So let's see how the program goes as all these stragglers come through. The men's race long finished. The men's champion, Meleku Bizanair of Ethiopia, crossing the line nearly 40 minutes ago, around about 40 minutes ago. Finishing in time of 2:09.
Another replay there of our...
Yeah, we've already...
Yep.
Already saw it come through, but good to see you again.
Yep, 2:41:26. Virginia Lowe, of course, one of the top female athletes, and then Lian Sito, personal best 2:43:24. But all of these Hong Kong female anyway, under 3.5 hours, pocketing another 1,000 Hong Kong dollars for their efforts. And of course the top men's runner, 2:26:42, Wang Wan-chun, who's the top men's runner for this year.
Well, for all these social runners in Hong Kong who are only doing the, I say only, but doing the 10K, they must have a think about what these other runners have done for the 42-kilometre race and how tough that is. Because, of course, running 10K is tough enough for normal folk.
Yeah, of course, we said, as you said before, 31,633 runners in the 10K. They had 8 different waves starting at 5:50 in the morning, 5:30 for the challenges. Yeah, maybe on average about an hour, just over an hour for some of the 10K runners. But obviously running is one of those sports that anybody can do it if you've got 2 feet or even wheelchair. Of course, we have wheelchair 10K, wheelchair trials as well. So certainly running is a sport for all.
Yeah, the wheelchair race, for practical reasons, of course, sticking to the Hong Kong Island segment of this race. No tunnels or bridges for them, as Victoria Park continues to be flooded with people who'll be wandering around looking for friends, looking for running club members, you name it, family members who were greeting them at the end of the race. So a horde of people down there, and really this is the ideal place for the race to finish in Hong Kong. Lots of room for people to finish up, rehydrate, grab their bags, etc., and then take off home and make room for more people coming through. Well, seems like a lifetime now since we saw the start. John Lee, the chief executive of Hong Kong, hitting that starting hooter at 6 a.m. for the start of the race.
嚟自新加坡，所用時間1小時20分56秒。好，有請咧咁多位得獎者同我哋嘉賓影張嘅大合照。Let's take a photo with all the awardees on stage. Okay, thank you and congratulations to all the award winners. 多謝晒龍局長。奇先生同埋蒙博士，多謝晒咁多位。我呢個時候咧，交翻俾終點嗰邊啦，唔該。Thank you.
恭喜晒你，慶祝嘅同時繼續向前行咯。